Well, I didn't know Microsoft was going to buy Skype. I think it was probably a good move. I think Microsoft, Facebook and Skype have been talking for a long time. They had an existing deal. You know, their discussions go back as far as a year and a half. But there's no question that it's hugely in Microsoft's interest to stay super close to Facebook, given the degree to which they fear and despise Google. And it is, to some degree, indicative, I think, of a growing closeness between Facebook and Microsoft. And I, too, as you noted, was somewhat struck by Zuckerberg's language in talking about Microsoft, because, in fact, historically, he's been somewhat more lukewarm in the way he talked about Microsoft. And if he's really feeling like trusting them and feeling really good about them, that's really good for Steve Ballmer.
And what does that tell you about his development, Mark Zuckerberg's development over the years? I mean, you interviewed him a few years back when obviously things were a lot different.
Well, certainly he continues to mature as a leader. I consider him an extraordinary leader who, you know, this company has made very few false moves. I mean, you can talk about privacy, but they've gotten past all of those like in the blink of an eye. I am extraordinarily impressed with Zuckerberg's evolution as a leader. And I think he's thinking more strategically about how to interact with other companies now than he ever was before.
David, the plot has certainly thickened just in the last week with the launch of Google+, Google's social networking service. How do you see that impacting Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg rising to that challenge?
Well, I look at it in two ways. First of all, in general, I don't think Google Plus at the moment poses any fundamental threat to Facebook. I think it is clearly an impressive product. It's getting great reviews. The Digerati early adopters are flocking to it, but I don't think it is different enough from Facebook that the average user of Facebook could care less. So I see no evidence that to suggest there might be any flocking of Facebook users to Google+. It'll probably be a moderately successful product, and it'll be around for a while. They'll improve it, and we may have something of a horse race in terms of features. But here's what I'll say more significantly in a way. Facebook is very afraid of Google. They're extremely focused on what Google does and how Google might hurt them, and for obvious reasons. Google's an extraordinary technology company with unbelievable resources, and so they got to take this seriously, and they do. Now, Zuckerberg said today at the beginning of the announcement that this is the beginning of launch season for Facebook, suggesting that there are going to be a number of other announcements of new features and products in coming months. I think that's partly because of their concern that Google is getting better at social, and they have to keep on their game or they will potentially get hurt.
Is the launch or the rise of another social network something that Mark Zuckerberg actively worries about?
Well, I think it's because it's Google. I don't think in general he thinks he's in any particular jeopardy. But the point I made before is really what I'm trying to say. It's all about incremental innovation. Zuckerberg is fine as long as Facebook keeps getting better. But Google is now in the game with a product that it itself will get better and will continue to improve. And if Facebook stays, static, it will get in trouble. So it just ups the pressure on them to really, stay innovating, as they've done an extraordinary job doing up to now.